Anyway, my name's Winslow. Welcome back. Or welcome to, or what is this? This is a relaunch. Welcome to the podcast that I run that I left for a year because reasons that aren't all that, I don't know. You get hyped on a project and you kind of phase out after a while because it's like, how do I keep this going? And anyway, this is now called Winsnotes. And I've been going over that like name forever, but you know, played off with the logo pretty well, like wins and then notes instead of Winslow and all that. And yeah, so if you've been here for a while, for a long time, welcome back. If you're new here, I'm Winslow. Nice to meet you. Hope you stay around. So yeah, first episode of this whole podcast venture was called Tea Time. And then afterwards I was like, this might actually work. And then I changed it. I did another rebrand. Called it Swing and Miss Podcast after my like tune on Gold Fat, like that first EP and everything. And it was cool. A bunch of like, just, I feel like I did what I wanted to do, have like discussions, conversations. Then it started to turn into kind of interviews toward the end. And that's when I kind of got to the point where I was just like, I don't know what I want to keep doing with this. And then I got caught up with other things. You know how life works. But I'm back. And yeah, we're just going to continue kind of how I started this like idea out with just like focusing on conversations, not really trying to grill people through interviews unless that pops up naturally, you know, but just come to each episode with a topic and just kind of talk about it the way I do. If you're used to that, you watch it in my YouTube videos, anything like that, you kind of know how that goes. I'm just, you know, presenting an idea, sharing some experience, some thoughts, things I read, whatever, and just kind of opening it up to you, the listener, to, you know, come back, continue that conversation and see where things go. Occasionally, there'll be guests, and anybody can be a guest. You want to come on the show? This show, whatever this is, just let me know. We'll find out a time, pick a topic, talk about it. You know, that's kind of the thing. It's not always going to be about, you know, drum and bass music or anything that I may, I don't know, be associated with. I mean, you know, you see a drum and bass producer, so they're just going to talk about drum and bass. Well, you know me, talk about that and everything kind of around it, the whole creative venture that is being a musician, being an artist, doing things like this, because that's what interests me. And I just like to make things that I wish I could have found when I was like coming up learning about things. There's nothing like this. And I was a bunch of podcasts, so, or a few. Everybody's still just putting out mixes, like we haven't heard the same 3 tunes mixed the same 3 ways. And I say that as a culprit of doing that myself. But you know, you try to do something different. You swing and you miss sometimes. And that's how I came up with that first title, the first name for this. But anyway, hope you're well. You're doing all right out there. Yeah, also big shout out to my main man Schologrim for hooking us up with a new version of the podcast theme, which has honestly been around since like the mid of the last one, but we never figured out, or I never figured out where to use it. So yeah, no way to reintroduce something than with a fresh update on a pretty classic song, the Tea Time theme, podcast theme by Schologrim and myself. Mostly I just, you know, gave him ideas and vocal samples. Anyway, let's get to the actual thing. But before that, let's do a little bit of housekeeping because this will be a continuous thing. So I am going to go ahead and do all the, if you like what you hear, if you want to support this, you know, click that follow button, whatever platform you're on. If you're on YouTube, hit subscribe. There's a video accompanying this. So because, you know, it's one way, you know, it's like, oh, we're doing great already. I'm already fumbling over words. It's one thing to hear somebody just, you know, talk and, you know, the voice is very nuanced and you get a really good story, but it's another thing to watch that person try and fumble their way through a half an hour or longer podcast and wince at every stupid idea they have and kind of filter out, even though there is a light script over there. See, if I say over there, that means you should probably be watching the video so you can see it on cam, but my computer's not on cam. because that's called framing, cinematography 101. Anyway, yeah, if you like what you see, follow, subscribe, share. I'd love any bit of support. Goes a long way. I appreciate it. Appreciate you. But yeah, all those links in the description, the show notes. But let's get into it. This is the first episode of Wins Notes, but I'm just going to keep it with the number of the swing and miss and everything else. So this is episode 10, first of 2022. Anyway, quick sip of the coffee. I'm off work today, so I drink coffee. That's a fun fact, because if I drink coffee and I got to go to work, then I got to skip out class. You know what I mean? Anyway, students, if you're watching this, don't bring this up in class. Unless you have something. I'm just kidding. I know you will. Anyway, so this episode, I want to talk about kind of my journey with hospitals so far, because it's been a year and a couple months. And when it was a year, back in February, I put out a post on Instagram, reaching out for anybody who wanted, to ask questions or about like, what's it like being a hospital artist or an artist on hospitals, a whole bunch of different ways to say it. And like at this, level, because everybody, when you start writing music, it's always like you find out who the big labels are and you're like, I don't want to be there one day. And for some way it happened to me. I'm still like go to the website. I'm like, oh, my face is there. That's really surreal and just kind of odd because yeah, like I have like memories and stuff popping up in my photos, or it's like 6-7 years ago and I got like a hospital shirt and I'm the only person in like my whole university who knows what drum and bass is or listens to it, and I thought at the time, and it's just like I'm just casually wearing like a hospital shirt that took 3 months to get here because shipping took forever. And now I'm like everywhere on the hospital socials and stuff and going to hospitality and things like that and having releases out and all this support, and it's really weird. I know some people might not think about it all that much, but like for me, like I can go back 5 years and remember that time just like it was nothing, when I was just like, oh, hospital would be a dream, or Metalheads or Shogun or any kind of, big label that will kind of affirm what you're doing. Because when they reached out, I was like, man, I have to be doing something right if I'm getting these kind of calls and emails, and then contract, and then first release, and then second release, and then third release in July. You heard it here first. Third release is in July. Don't know what's after that, because that's another episode to talk about album stuff. But yeah, so I just want to kind of talk about kind of the journey. I know there was so much exposition leading up to the actual thing you listen to this podcast for, but like I said, if you're new here, you'll get used to it. If you've been here a while, you already tuned me out a while ago. So talk about being very self-aware, right? Anyway, so brief story, how Hospital came together. I made really good tunes. I was really good. My ego blew up. They saw it. They signed me. That was it. Ferrari in my driveway. No. All right. So it was like this whole, I'm trying to speed it up. So you guys remember what happened, like 2020, like deep into the beginning of the pandemic, that kind of thing, all the social media stuff happened. And then a certain Chris in Perspective mentioned me. And then that kind of got me on the radar, a lot of bunch of people. And then kind of unrelated, but related, Tony Coleman reached out again. It wasn't the first time after that, just to put that kind of to rest. Because I had like been reaching out to the hospital beforehand, talked to New Tone a couple years back. We were sending tracks back and forth. He was really into what I was doing. That kind of died down. Started working with Gold Fat. Then because Mike Kiss is on Hospital, he started forwarding my music to them. So they already had kind of an idea. And then this whole like media thing I've been doing and this push, like I learned later on that they were watching the whole time and kind of noticed and kind of following my trajectory, kind of trying to see where I was going with my music and what I wanted to do, kind of feel me out as an artist, which what any label would do. And thankfully I had this whole kind kind of catalog of things that basically paint a picture of the kind of artist I feel like I am, and I've been working towards, and a bit of potential of like where I'm going or would like to go in the future, you know? So I feel like they picked up on that, and then it came around to like that summer, Tony reached out to me on Instagram because we would trade messages every now and then, always talking about like the earliest ones are kind of like chord progressions and stuff, because I would play like a London Electricity tune on like my piano, on a piano, like on a Instagram story. He'd reach out, oh, it was actually this chord instead of that one. And then we started talking about that. And then it was like one time we were talking about Steely Dan and chord changes and major seventh chords, but not leaving out the third. And I'm being real specific because this is like it's right there, even though it's like 2 years ago, because it's one of those pinch me moments, you know? But through those conversations, like a couple weeks passed, and he comes out of nowhere. He's like, Duncan, this isn't an actual offer. Would you feel at home on hospital? And then I was just like washing dishes one day at home, like my parents' house. And I was like, I did not expect that. Nah, I didn't expect that to come. And then I kind of sat there for a couple hours. I had the time zone difference on my side, so I could wait because it would have been morning by the time he responded anyway. And I played it a little cool, you know? I was just like, yeah, I mean, I'd be lying if I never thought of myself as an artist on hospital. Like, I've always wanted to release something, even if it was a compilation, just to be like, got a track on hospital, you know, tick off that box. And I was just kind of straightforward, like, yeah, I'd feel at home, I think. Even though, like I always say, like if med school was still around, I thought my music was kind of weird and a little left from like main hospital until they like restructured and everything. So I thought like maybe be a med school artist. That'd be awesome. But straight up hospital, nice. And if you're not watching the video version, you just missed a nice joke. Anyway, so that's kind of how that happened. And then weeks passed. And then I get an email from Chris Goss for asking about if I wanted to put a remix together for Deg's Letters from Degwa remix album. And I was like, yeah, I mean, I'm not going to say no. I'm going to take that chance. If it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. And then there's a whole story about that, which I talked about on episode 1 of this podcast. So if you want to check that out, go back there. But it was just like quick version. They asked me, I said yes. I had 2 weeks to do it. I took a whole week to do one remix. I hated it, and had a couple days left. And I redid an entire remix like in one night. Yeah, that was a stressful time on myself. Like they weren't stressing me out. It was just like me, like, oh, this is a big thing. This is my big break, which, you know, it was what it was. I'm not like mega superstar Metric Wilkinson off one remix, but I'm on the way there, you know? Anyway, it's kind of long short of that. And then from there was working with Solvent, because they're kind of like my trial period into hospital. Also, although I was like, it was funny. They hit me up. Like I talked to Joe Goss and Jack, Paul and Bryson on Zoom one day, like a week before Tony hit me up, and they're like kind of offering the same thing, like working with Solvent and like a continued relationship with that. But it was like, we start with an EP, then see what happens afterwards. They had just previously signed Askell and Alaire not too long ago, who I got to collab with on their album. Go check that out if you haven't. Yeah, it was kind of weird how these things work out, but I kept with the Solvent EP, the Mad Flavors EP. That was 4 tracks. And then after that, it was like, bam, deep into talks about joining hospital, and like talking with Megan, head of legal. I got to learn everybody's position. I'm sorry. Megan, you're awesome. If you're listening, if you're not, you're still awesome. Somebody tell her. Yeah, just kind of going back and forth. And at first I was a little intimidated, because you got to realize hospital still is a record label. It is a business, even though it's music and all for the love and all that stuff. But you got to get your ducks in a row before you can, you know, focus on the music, which is what I've been doing. But yeah, it kept going. Lawyers involved. contract back and forth to make sure everything was good as a starting. Like, I had a good idea of what everything meant, what I was getting up to, but it's still good to have legal representation. And that was taken care of. And then on February 8th, 2021, I signed the contract and became a hospital artist. And I skipped a couple things because I did a more on that Future Symptoms release. That was kind of another build up. And then, yeah, that was it. I don't think that was it. Then we started working on Sandalwood Nights EP, which was basically just about everything was done except Snooze Button Roller was last. That was like before the deadline, like a week. And then everything and more, which I did I told these stories a while back. So check out some other things. Yeah. So that's a not brief synopsis of how joining hospital went. Yeah. And then from there, it's honestly been smooth sailing. Let's just get the worst part out of it. Let's get the worst part of being a hospital artist right now. And it's because there's that time difference of 6 hours. So every time we have to meet, I got to get up at the butt crack of dawn while they're like at the end of their day. I'm up at like 6 a.m. Just like fresh out of bed, flip on the laptop. What's up, guys? What are we talking about today? And they're like, are you just waking up? I'm like, yeah, it's like 5:45. I'm just now getting up. Don't mind me. Just making breakfast while we're talking about my next release. But yeah, actually, it's been really cool just to see kind of how the machine works, how they, everything's just so professional yet so easygoing. And like, if I have a question, I know who to ask. If I ask the wrong person, they're like, it's not me, mate, ask them. And then it's great. I just get to focus on music because, that's why I'm here, to write music that sells a bunch of money, sells a bunch of copies and makes money. No, that is a joke. Don't take that out of context and put me on Dogs on Acid and try to flame myself in hospital in that irrelevant forum by old guys who still think Optical and Ned Rush are the... Anyway, that's also half a joke. And that's why you come here. Wins Notes, episode 10. Check it out. Anyway. So, yeah, it's just really easy. I focus on the music. We just get like a big pool of music going on like a Dropbox folder. I just make as I make stuff. Sometimes I'm just like that. It's idea. It doesn't even have to be full tunes. It's just stick in there, see what we can do with that idea. And when it comes time for me to like start planning the release, we have a A&R meeting in which I have to talk to Mike Kiss, which is the second worst thing about being on hospital because I have to talk to him and he's just like, the kick needs more beans. That's not his voice, but that's kind of how I think about him sometimes. He's like, oh yeah, it needs a hook element. Man, I can't start off with these inside jokes. If you know what I mean, Nah, Johnny, you're all right. You're pretty cool. You helped me out. Nice. Yeah, but then we have like little meetings. We talk about what I want to do, what tracks are like the strongest ones, which one I focus on. Then I finish those up, usually like 2 or 3 or 4 tracks. Sandalwood Nights was 3. Breaking News was 3. The next one is 4. And that one will be on vinyl. You heard it here first. That's why it's coming out in August. All things go well. Yeah, it's a lot easier than you think it'd be because you kind of work up in your head, oh, they're the big guns. It's Spy, it's Metric, it's Kino, it's all these things. It's Hospital, the massive entity that it is. And like, you feel like it's going to be more serious, but it's as serious as it needs to be. And then the rest is just like goofing around, making stuff, coming up with ideas, and me just like having free reign, but with an elevated level of resources. Like there's all this stuff I do for myself. And like I did before with like all my self-releases and little social media and promo campaigns I come up with myself. And I still do that, but with the backing of Hospital, which is why you see Siri, I didn't ask you anything, which is why like you see kind of an elevated level of me on the internet. That's a weird way to put it. But, like, I know you've seen the ads where it's just like me saying something. It's like a post of mine, but it's like an ad version of it. And you're probably like, why am I seeing this 1,000 times? But that's kind of like what Hospital does. And that's important. But all the other ideas, like me dressing up as a news anchor and getting track involved, or the whole tea thing I'm still carrying on, which I may or may not be doing. But that's another episode because I've been kind of mulling that over. There's just all these ideas and stuff I already have, and I just get even more license and support to do them. And that's really cool. And I feel like that's kind of what a label like relationship should be, because it is a record deal. It is a agreement between two parties to, support and supply each other and do all these things, right? And right now we're just like, we're knocking that out of the park. And that's kind of one thing they really liked, I guess, that drew them to me, is that I already have these ideas and these, like, I know like myself and what I want and where I want to go with that, and the things I want to do and accompany my music, and how to package things, and and even if I'm not like 100% on the dot of this will work, they're just like, they offer ideas and even like A&R my ideas that aren't music. And it's just cool to have like a team of people that really know what they're doing, because they've done the same things. And I've reached this point of doing things kind of by myself. And now I have them to take me, a whole nother level. Mad TV reference right there. Yeah, I mean, there has really been no downsides yet. And I'm gonna say yet because I still feel like I should leave it open and to the possibility that things might not work, or there's things I'll disagree with, or, it's not all like sunshine and rainbows. I'm on Hospital, just let them do whatever they want so I can stay here. No, it's like, you gotta kind of think of it level-headedly. And it took me a while to get there, because I was fanning out for a while. And just like, oh, it's too good to be true. I'm going to do all this stuff. And in a realistic tone, still with me, because I'm not like, oh, watch me get my Ferrari and turn to Nets guy. It's, these Ferrari jokes. And it's just like, okay, you've reached this level. Whatever you did to get here, just maintain that and you'll be fine. That's all. That's kind of how I've had to level with me. And I had to talk to a lot of friends. Josh, Siren, good guy to talk to, even though he just yaps. Watch episode 2 of the podcast if you want to know what I'm talking about. Or I talked to Kino. He gave me like this whole brief of just like voice messages over Instagram of just like, all right, think about this, make sure you're going with this. And just overall, the advice was just stay level-headed, you know why you're here. Whatever you did, that's why they're calling on you. Just keep that going, and don't be afraid to ask questions, because there's a lot of things to ask questions about. And that's kind of it. It's just been that smooth so far. And I keep qualifying it with so far. But I honestly, yeah, if I had something negative, if I had a negative experience or something constructive to say about it, watching my words right now, but like, they're watching. I know they are. They're just like, if you keep talking about us, if you say anything wrong, we're dropping you from the label. And that's always in the back of my mind. I'm like, what if I don't make a track that was as good as the last one? They're just going to let me go. Contractually, you can't, Hospital, not yet. Anyway, no, but it's all those things. It's been positive. I had something to say to the opposite, I would tactfully. I'm not here to badmouth anyone, obviously. Yeah, it's been a really good experience, and I'm like really happy to see where it goes now. Like, getting to play Hospitality in the Woods was nuts. Just getting taken care of like I was, I don't know, somebody. Like, I'm one of the guys who, and like everybody else I'm like running into, all the other artists are like, yeah, this is normal, whatever. And I'm like, they picked me up in a Mercedes from the airport. This guy drove me an hour across London to this hotel that was awesome. And I couldn't figure out how to turn the lights on because I'm an idiot and I've never been in the UK before. There's this little card thing, Americans, like, you have to put it in the slot and then the lights come on. Crazy. Nice tea selection too. Hotel in Croydon, can't remember. Jury's Inn. It was nice. If you're listening, I'll be back. And then hospitality on the beach in a couple weeks. Hopefully that goes through. Fingers crossed. And then all the other shows is happening in July. By the way, if you're in the UK and you want to hang out, hit me up because I'm going to be in London all of July. I'm staying in an Airbnb in Peckham, I believe, or somewhere close to that. So southeast, a little bit. Yeah, hit me up. Make stuff. Where's I going with this? Anyway, yeah, it's been good. You know, everyone always has like these assumptions like about hospital. Like the people who are just like, oh, it's not real drum and bass. Oh, they're gonna take over you and change your sound. It's like, you know what? I hope I do change. And I am changing. That's because I have a more refined like intention. Oh, there's that word, buzzword, intention. I have like a more refined idea of what I want. Because, you know, they ask me these like probing questions and make me want to figure those things out more than I already do myself. So am I going to turn into like some commercial, you know, pop guy? Nah. Am I make something a little crossover-y? I've already done that. I've done that a few times. Everything and More was kind of sing-songy. Wasn't necessarily in pop territory because I kind of ruined it with my own voice. Nah, I still like it. There's a remix coming that you guys are not ready for. It's really nice. And then the More was a bit sing-songy. Haven't been able to do that yet because I'm in here, and if somebody listens to me outside this door, I'm gonna lose my mind. Even if it's a cat. The cat comes and looks at me like, you gotta leave. Gee, you gotta go. I can't record anything with you meowing at me, but yeah. So no, I'm just me, you know, more groovy. I feel like I'm really falling into my style and what I want, especially now that I'm 3 projects in. And what's coming afterwards, or what's potentially coming afterwards, is the big A album word. And like, I've been thinking about that for a while. And I kind of feel like I'm getting in a good spot to where I want to start on that. But that's another episode waiting to happen. Like episode 3, if I have it planned. Nope. It's like after that. I have the first 3 episodes planned. Check me out. Anyway. So, yeah. Hope that dispels like any... or just kind of gives you a little insight to how things been. Like it's really easy to work with hospital. And I say that meaning like the whole team that makes hospital work. Like each individual person has been super nice and just nothing but accommodating and professional and friendly. And just like, I know a lot of them on like a more personal level than just like, you're my A&R guy and you're the digital guy and, you know, person. And then what's, you know, it's nice. So yeah, that's kind of how it's been going. So talking about that post from ways ago, there's some questions there up on Instagram. And, before I get to those, will be a Q&A on here as well. So like, the Spotify has this thing where like you can go on the Spotify app and like answer like questions and send me responses and stuff and comments. Or if you're on any other platform, I'll see them. If you're on YouTube, stick them in the comments. Just like, do you have any more questions or things that maybe I didn't cover? It could be like simple stuff like, what's the release planning like? What's it like talking to so-and-so? Or you could have like probing questions like, you know, after that whole debacle with Chris in perspective and things like that, like what made you still go forward and blah, blah, blah. And down there in the comments on Instagram or Spotify Q&A deal, leave questions and I'll make a follow-up episode, which will be for our Patreon members. And you can also sub through Spotify, but I don't really know how that works just yet. But Patreon would be better, and there'll be like a follow-up Patreon exclusive episode where I just kind of follow up to each episode with more discussion questions, maybe bring on a guest or somebody who asked one and kind of continue the conversation there. So if that sounds cool to you, definitely hit that sub button or follow me over to Patreon. It's just $3 a month to show support, and you get all kinds of things on top of these Patreon exclusive episodes. But back to the Q&A. let me dig this up real quick. I've taken a break from all social media, so like I gotta look through, and I'll talk about that in a future episode because it was a much needed break. Now I'm way more focused than I was before, and I like know musically what I want to do because I just kind of burnt myself out. And yeah, I made a post a while back about that, but on patreon.com/WinslowXYZ. Check it out. It's a free post, by the way. Anyway, let me find this post. It was February. That's my face. It's all my face. It's my Instagram. How are you liking this so far? Let me know in the comments. How's those washing dishes going or whatever you're up to? Because you know how this works. You turn on a video of mine, then you disappear, switch tabs. Anyway, some questions. Here you go. So Johnny the Mahan had a coworker with the last name Mahan back in the day. Anyway, what factors did you consider when deciding to sign with Hospital, and what has changed the most in my life? So factors I considered is, am I ready? That's a big one. It's like, okay, this is a big opportunity. Am I myself, Duncan, the person, ready to take on something like this? And I was, because I was building up to that at some point, and I have enough confidence in myself to know it would have happened eventually in some way, like a single or something, just working with the Hospital. But so it was more of a when will it happen, not an if. And I really want to stress that that's not me being arrogant. It's just like, through a lot of work over the years, I've had to really build up my confidence to just like, you can do this if you try, you know? So that was definitely one. Am I ready? What are they, not what are they offering, but what are they asking of me past music? Like, what do I need to do to successfully do this? What's like the time commitment, things like that. Yeah. And I just went through with it because I was at a nice turning point to where it would have been work with Solvent because they reached out ahead of time, and then, build up to there, and then Hospital probably or somewhere else. But I was at a good turning point in like this career to make this into like an official career. Like before, of course I was doing it for the love and everything, but when you sign a contract, it's like for an album and stuff, is like, that makes it for real. So yeah. And what other part of the question, what has the signing changed the most in your life? Career, it's just made things easier. Like I don't have to worry about sending demos anymore. I hated that, just because it's like, maybe you get a response, maybe you don't, and just kind of dealing with uncertainty, and then or maybe self-releasing and doing that yourself. I feel like at the point I was at, I did everything I could do feasibly by myself without adding someone else in the mix. And I got to the point where that someone else I was adding to the mix was Hospital, and it worked out. And it's kind of the ease of things. Like I can just freely write music, dump it to them in the folder, and whatever comes out is exactly what I wanted, packaged and presented exactly how I wanted, promoted and delivered exactly how I wanted, and still feels authentic to me, And that's all I feel like an artist can want, is just to come across authentically themselves with the backing, like with a more, solid backing and more resources. So yeah, and then I get to travel around the world like a G. So, that's awesome too. Anyway, yeah, let's pepper in some jokes and some light humor every now and then. Yeah, that's it's been great, yeah. What does, from Lost Theory, what does a general contract with a music label consist of? Okay, so there's a couple. For like releases versus like exclusivity is fairly the same. It's like I, the artist, hereby whatever, agree to work with other label party for X amount of things. Or if it's a release, it's just this release and blah blah blah. If it's like this Hospital, it's one album at least, and then we'll see what happens. They're called options. You can exercise those. That's not really getting anything I can't talk about because that's like a general contract. And then, royalty splits and publishing and things. The artist hereby declares to play their own music when they're out and do amount of promo and show up for public social media things, and just be an artist that wants to talk about the music instead of like be a hermit. Like, here, I made some music, now disappear. That's not a jab to Caliber, but it's basically like the artist should put forth the effort that the label is putting forth, that kind of thing. And you agree on that. And then how you get paid, royalties, remixes, splits, all that kind of stuff. And yeah, so me, I'm on a 1 to 3 album deal, which is a big deal because I don't know if I want to work on an album yet, but there will be one. Which is, some people don't like exclusivity. I feel like at this point, again, on the turning point in my career where something like this I would actually benefit from instead of having it hold me back. Maybe after album 3, I'm like, I want to break off, do my own thing, start my own 1985 or my own, that kind of thing. But when I'm there, I'll know. Right now, I'm here and I'm having a good time. If you really want to know what goes into contracts, go on Patreon. Patreon.com/WinslowXYZ, and I read through an entire contract that may or may not have been my hospital contract, but with a lot of things blacked out just because I'm not supposed to, reveal all the cards. Anyway. And from Mr. Matt Lally, who is your favorite member of staff and why is it me? It's definitely you, Matt. Yeah. Meeting in the hospitality on the woods was just like sick. And just running around like an idiot. You giving me a microphone and recording all that. Anyway, it was nice to meet for sure. And there's everybody else as well. And then Mike is under, it's like, who's your favorite hospital artist and why is it me? And my favorite hospital artist is me because I'm the best. Nah, it's probably you. Or Kino. Or Spy. Or Bob. It's just everybody, I don't know. It's pretty great. Also, I feel the need to like clarify this real quick, but so many people are like, oh, I'm signed by this label because you had one release. That's not what that means. If you're signed to a label, that means some level of exclusivity. Not, oh, I had one release 20 years ago. I'm a hospital artist. You know who you are. Anyway. I'm not saying that to flex because I am exclusive, but I'm just saying there's a difference and a lot of people get caught up with that. And there's these silly conversations that happen on the internet. So I'm signed to this label. Oh, so what are you doing? Oh, well, they don't take any. Yeah, you know what I mean? Let's keep going. All right. Finadrift asks, AKA the man who rides a cheetah. Shout out South Africa. How many suits and ties do you wear in a single week? At the start of the school year, I might have worn 1 or 2, and now I just kind of wear a school hoodie every day, and I have like 1 suit that doesn't really fit because I gained weight over the pandemic, and then I bought a new suit that's kind of too big because I lost a little bit of weight, and I don't like suits all that much. But it's mostly because I don't have a well-fitting one, and I have my own body image issues. I'm working out, so, Let's talk about getting real on this podcast later. Yeah, that's a real question, though. What is your favorite thing about being signed to them, which you did not have access to before being signed? How much pressure is it being a new signee? So I'll answer that second one. How much pressure? A ton of pressure that I put on myself by myself because I overthought it for so long. And now I'm just like, yeah, come on, man. You're the guy now. I don't have to feel pressured anymore, but I still do because I have my own expectations of myself and I want to reach those. Like they've never said anything to me that like, you need to do this and this. And if you don't, then bye. It's always been me. And I'm much better about it now. I'm just kind of managing myself and my thought process and knowing that I'm here because whatever they saw in me, they wanted more and to develop that. So I try and keep a level head about it, but every now and then I'm like, I'm just a boss, yo. Oh, no, you didn't. Anyway, so it's not a lot of pressure anymore, but in the beginning, I put a lot of pressure on myself. And then why is the trash picking up right now? Normally I'm at work right now, so I'm not used to the schedule. Anyway, what's your favorite thing about being signed to them, which you did not have access to before? It's just like I talked about earlier, the resources. Like if I want to do a project, I just have to slightly mention, they're like, bam, we'll help you out here, here, and here. Okay. And that's been so sick. It's really just having those resources, that team of people to bounce ideas off of because they have the experience of what works, what hasn't worked, what could work, what I might work for me, things like that. And that's just a really good, team to have, Not that I didn't necessarily have that before with my friends and BSA and the people I normally talk to and still talk to. It's just like, it's more concentrated thing that I have now, And experience, like people like know me and recognize me now. Like if I go to a show, I like to lurk around before I go on stage. I'm not like, oh, show up 5 minutes, play my set and leave. I'm wandering around and people are like, you're the guy. And I'm like, how do you know? But it's just kind of that and name recognition and things like that, like I didn't experience before, and being able to kind of have that cosign that is hospital, so people take me serious now. And I'm like, I've always been serious and been doing these things way before their name was strapped to mine. And then, you know how that works though. So yeah, that's kind of been it. And then Beeson asks, how many Ferraris do you own now? Well, I have a cherry red Ferrari outside, and in storage I have a yellow Ferrari, and then I have a green Ferrari. And you're seeing how much I know about Ferraris by just saying the colors and not the actual kinds of Ferraris I have. But no, I don't have a Ferrari. I'm still me. Trust me. I'm a middle school teacher, just getting by, that occasionally travels on the weekends around the world. It's such a weird thing. And all my kids kind of know about it. And they're just like kind of hyped. But they also like, what's the biggest joke in your music career? But, it's just banter. They love me. I love them. That's all right. So no Ferraris unless you count Forza Horizon 5, which I have like 2 Ferraris in, and I crash because I drive through the desert instead of, going on the roads. But famous man once said, where we're going, we don't need roads. So yeah, hope that clears up some things. Again, if you have more questions, there'll be a follow-up episode once I get enough, which will be Patreon exclusive or subscribers exclusive, depending on what platform you're on. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube. I don't have the sub thing on YouTube yet. I gotta work on that. Hopefully this helps. Anyway, that's the first episode back. First episode back, 10th episode in the season, or the show of Winsnotes. And yeah, it's been fun. If you have any questions, again, reach out to me. If you like this, let me know. I need a little bit of that validation to know I'm on kind of the right path. Tell me how it can improve, or if it's perfect, let me know. I need that ego boost. Cause a guy needs an ego boost. How many compliments do guys get that often? Turn this on like a Reddit post right now. Anyway, that's about it. That's the first episode. Remember, if you like what you hear, you see, follow, subscribe, share. I would appreciate any of it. Remember, there's a video version up on YouTube, and there will consistently be one along with these. Sorry about that. Spotify has this video thing now where you can like watch videos on the app. So if you want to do that, the video will be there too. I really love video and just like this kind of thing, Like the whole idea behind this is because I wish other artists did the same thing, and I like hear their thought process, here's the thing. So if this, provides you with any value, I really appreciate it. Just like let me know. I'm not saying that for a money grab, but if you want to give me some money, that's cool too. I could buy some treats for the cat. Yeah, he's in there snoring. But yeah, of course, I appreciate you. Thanks for listening and staying around this long. Skylar Grimm, play us out with the new theme song. I will catch you later. Episode 1. 2's coming up next in a week or so. I'm gonna record it right after this one later.